Count them back.
The official clock says. All right, good evening. I'd like to call to order the May 17th meeting of the Conestoga Valley School Board. Notice that at this point in time, all are in attendance, with the exception of Ms. Williams, who might be coming. If you could all please join me with the pledge to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Well, welcome to all of you in the room and all those watching online. Thank you for taking the time to spend the evening with us. Board, I need a motion to approve our agenda.
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, we have an agenda. Board accommodations for the 21st, May 2021. The Paradise Rotary Club announced its Students of the Month for May 2021, and high school junior Zamora Rusta was one of these 3 students honored. Zamora is a member of the Students Against Destructive Decisions, Mu Alpha Theta, it's the Math Honor Society, and the Women's Liberation Alliance. In addition to being on the CV Field hockey team, Zamora earned 3rd place in the recent Science and Engineering Fair and was selected as a nominee for the Congress of Future Medical Leaders. Congratulations, Zamora. Congratulations to the middle school students of the month for April and May. The 7th grade students of the month for April were Elizabeth Gomez, Caitlin Flickinger, and Dominic Santamaria. The 8th grade students of the month for April were Caillou Vang, Sarah Sophia Lopez, Brooke Denlinger, and Talon Evans. The 7th grade students of the month for May were Teresa Deschanel, right? Close, Deschanel. Michael Horst, Gabby Cruz La Paz, and May's 8th grade students of the month were Samson Fa, Hannah Granruth, and Maylee Gonzalez. Congratulations to the girls and boys lacrosse teams. For the first time in history of their programs, both teams clinched berths in the LL League playoffs. And congratulations to CB High School sophomore boys tennis player Yuji Wanger, as he was named Lancaster Lebanon League Section 2 All-Star for the 2021 season. Accommodations for tonight. Dr. Z, any superintendent's comments?
Yes, Mr. President, I apologize in advance for a lengthy report tonight. We have 3 areas that are definitely worth drawing attention to. First, you'll notice a couple of changes to the agenda since it was posted on Friday. In the superintendent's report, we've added Stephanie Dorsheimer as our recommended candidate for the itinerant autistic support teacher position. With Stephanie's recommendation, along with the other posted recommendations, we are now fully staffed on the special ed professional side. With board policy 818, contracted services personnel. As you recall, we had a lengthy discussion between 2 simple words whose meaning drastically covers the scope of their impact, and or. In order to align our policy and our practice, it was determined that or would be the better choice. But upon further review, we realized that we have summer employees who do not comply with the change to or. So to most accurately match policy and practice, we're going back to and. But we are adding the word may in number 2 definitions, where it says has, will, or may have direct contact with children. That should clean it up. Again, this is the first reading. If we need to make another change, second reading is next month. We've also added an item A, electrical change order, to the action discussion. As you recall, Wes from Murata, Maine recommended pulling the electrical change order from the consent agenda until they could further work with the contractors. Wes isn't able to attend tonight, but Phyllis is now ready to address, when it's her turn, ready to address the issue in action discussion. And we recently were able to move forward with the slot termination and bond issuance, so Scott Kramer will be here to discuss that during item H, finance update, also in action discussion. Whew. All right, secondly, we are in great shape heading into next school year with regard to our professional staff. We've been very busy interviewing outstanding candidates for for the various open positions that we have next year. You're able to read their resumes as attached, and I'm proud to introduce some of our recommended candidates to you tonight, because I know you love putting a name to a face. Those others listed who cannot attend tonight will join us for introduction over the next couple of months. First, I'd like to call up is Melanie Mcleif. There's Melanie. Melanie is recommended to be our reading specialist literacy coach at Fritz Elementary. She's coming to us from Northern York County School District, where she has been teaching after earning her bachelor's in education with pre-K to 4 and a minor in counseling from Messiah University, where she is also an adjunct instructor. Followed up by a master's in language and literacy with a reading specialist certification from Millersville University. Board, I'd like to introduce Melanie Mcleaf as our candidate.
Welcome.
Thank
It
you.
was a colorful resume.
What did you say?
It was a colorful resume.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much.
Ashley Albee, there's Ashley, is our recommended candidate for the new kindergarten position at Brownstown Elementary. She's returning the CV. Ashley's student taught with Mrs. Tarabelli at Fritz Elementary. Ashley is coming to us from Harrisburg Area School District, and she's earned her bachelor's degree from Millersville University and is certified in both pre-K 4 and grades 5-6. Ladies and gentlemen, Ashley Albee.
Thank you.
Rebecca France, I saw her. There she is. Rebecca is slated to be our part-time reading support teacher at Fritz Elementary, and she's coming back to us after a short stint working with the non-public schools in our IU. Rebecca earned her bachelor's degree from Messiah University in early childhood education and her Master of Education degree with a reading specialist certification from Eastern Mennonite Universities. Ladies and gentlemen, Rebecca France. Erica Stetler. There's Erica. Is our recommended candidate to be our CDVA special education teacher. A perfect choice for this new position. Erica has experience as a special education paraprofessional at Leola Elementary, and most recently as a paraprofessional in our CDVA setting for the past year. Erica has a bachelor's degree from Penn State in Humanities and will be emergency certified as she completes her post-baccalaureate teaching certificates in early childhood pre-K 4 and special education pre-K 8 to finish up in December. Isabel Bender is our recommended candidate for the position of music teacher at Smoketown Elementary. This oboist, she played the oboe, she's played it since she was a little kid, because it was the coolest instrument that there was. Is truly a well-rounded musician, as her participation in Westchester's wind ensemble, women's chorus, and marching band can attest. She earned her bachelor's degree in music education from Westchester and brings with her experience teaching at both the middle school and elementary level. Welcome, Isabel.
Thank you.
Well, you want to talk about an interesting one, Mary Fleming. Mary's going to be our part-time reading support teacher at Smoketown Elementary, and she was with us this past year as a CVVA teacher. She has a bachelor's degree in political science from Villanova. And a post-baccalaureate certification in early childhood from Millersville. And you could easily see how the two of those go together. But again, Mary, we welcome you to CV. I think I get everybody. Yes. Okay, that was only 2 though, so I'm not done yet. All right, as you can see, we're proudly continuing the tradition of hiring the best candidates to make a positive difference in the lives of our children. Finally, in case you hadn't heard, CDC made an announcement last week that put pretty much the country in a tizzy, that masks didn't have to be worn by those who were fully vaccinated. Well, great in theory, and I'm sure in their rationale, presented a list of questions for educational leaders in PA. Just a few off the top of our heads. Was the Department of Health aligned with CDC? And was PDE aligned with the Department of Health? How would this affect our signed board-approved attestation? And how would we be able to verify that someone without a mask is fully vaccinated, which means 2 weeks after their final dose? And what would happen to the policies and procedures already in place? As Lancaster and Lebanon superintendents, we gathered to address these questions and many more. The consensus was that the overwhelming majority were going to stay the course. But more importantly, the decision was made, what's best for CV in mind. In our case, the collective efforts of our faculty and staff, nurses and administrators, and our students has resulted in us being open for face-to-face instruction for 5 days a week since the beginning of school for those who so chose. The 80% who did attend in person followed social distancing, hand washing, mask wearing, contact tracing, and quarantining protocol for the past 166 school days. Of those days, we had to shift to virtual instruction only at the high school and only on 3 separate occasions. The way we're going to make it through the rest of the 13 and a half days of school is to stay the course. As we do, and with the availability of the vaccine to those 12 years of age and older, we will continue to see our numbers of cases decline. And if you check the dashboard today, we're at the lowest number that we've been at all year. Knock on something that's similar to wood. I don't know if CDC was eavesdropping on our conversation, but on Saturday, they came out with an update to their no mask if vaccinated advice for schools. CDC recommends schools continue to use the COVID-19 prevention strategies outlined in the current version of their operational strategy for K-12 schools for at least the remainder of the 2020-21 academic school year. That's exactly what we are going to do. We're going to continue to press on as we have for the last 166 days. Finally, since this is our last school board meeting prior to the end of the school year, as a reminder again, with respect to graduation, it will be held at 7 o'clock on Friday, June 4th at Calvary Church. Dr. Smith and the high school team will continue to send out information to the seniors and their parents regarding the program. Don't forget, even with the governor's reduced mitigation efforts, masks will still be required to be worn in order for us to have the indoor ceremony. Finally, a reminder to all registered voters, tomorrow is primary election day. Please get out and vote for your candidates. I'm sorry, sir, but that's all.
That's it?
That's it.
Are you sure?
Positive.
All right. Any correspondence from the secretary tonight?
None this evening.
All right. Any board comments tonight?
Yeah, I have a question, in regards to the mask, thing from the CDC. I understand that with the indoors, we're gonna keep the mask. What about as far as the outside protocol for it? My concern is, it's supposed to be 90 degrees this week, and we're gonna have kindergartners and first graders wearing masks. Is that something that we can, as a board, say, okay, we do masks inside and not outside, or how does that work? And
We do allow our students to have mask breaks, and when they're outside, if they're not within 6 feet, they can take their masks off.
how long are those mask breaks? Do you know by chance?
It varies by teacher. They've been doing them all year. They did them in the beginning of the year when it was just as hot as it is right now. Unfortunately, we're air conditioned in all our buildings.
I had a comment to your comment about our hiring. I think we can be very proud of the quality of the applicants that we get. Quite frankly, when I see the kind of various backgrounds, I think that's great. Being a big liberal arts supporter, I think it's wonderful to have people on staff who have a broader perspective.
Thank you. I agree 100%. We're further along this year than we have been in the last, since I've been here.
Yeah, but which makes me wonder, are the colleges seeing more students interested in special ed? Because that was especially unusual to have so many well-qualified people in some specialty thing for.
And I'm gonna ask the recent graduates, I mean, it's always L-Ed and then they tag on special ed. Is that a requirement now? Or is that an encouragement?
They highly encourage it.
Because if you want a job, special ed's there.
Yeah.
And then I think when they meet Sarah, they can't help but say,
All right, this is gonna be the time of the meeting for our first time for public comments. I know that we have a young lady here to speak. Is there any other ones that would like to speak in public comments? If not, Grace, do you want to come to the mic? Try to get as close to it as you can.
Okay. Is that okay?
Yep.
Alright. Hello everyone, my name is Grace Naughton and my address is 2069 Old Philadelphia Pike 17602. And I am a senior at CV's High School. I'm here tonight to address my concerns regarding the decision to have an indoor graduation ceremony. Having an indoor ceremony now is unethical and disrespectful. After all this time full of sacrifices, including not seeing family, not going to school, and not being able to fully help our community. All of the hard work the nurses, doctors, as well as family members have gone through has been unbelievable. Are we really going to throw all that down the drain? I know we can slowly start inching towards normalcy, but the decision to have an indoor ceremony is unacceptable. I'm aware that the ceremony will be live streamed for those who don't feel comfortable to attend. People are going to have to make those hard decisions on whether or not they will attend, is the answer I get when I talk to people in the district about my concerns. How is it reasonable that people who don't want to put any risk on their family or themselves are pushed to the back to the point of having a student just watching their graduation online where everyone else is living their true graduation ceremony? If we were to have an outdoor ceremony, our seniors and their families would not have to be forced to make these unnecessarily difficult decisions. It only adds to the stress of the year. So please stop making things so much more difficult than they need to be. Instead of being a joyous celebration and something to look forward to, this ceremony has brought stress and frustration. People are getting the vaccines, yes, but many still have not gotten them. We are not in the clear yet to have an indoor, crowded, stuffy, hot ceremony with over 1,500 people. Does that sound realistic or logical? Just because other schools around here are choosing to have it inside does not mean we should follow that example. We ourselves need to think rather than follow blindly. Just because they're doing it does not make it okay. I am desperately asking you to consider having an outdoor ceremony with the whole class together. And don't think it's too late, because it is never too late to make the right decision. Are we also really having the ceremony indoors because of tradition and convenience? The safety and mental state of our people outweighs the inconvenience of having an outdoor ceremony. Masks are not enough to protect when there is no social distancing. It will be impossible to social distance in the sanctuary and other common areas of Calvary Church. I'm completely aware that as of the end of May, the governor will lift certain guidelines, but that does not mean we follow someone blindly. Please understand that common sense, morality, and science is important here. No matter what comfort level everyone is at with this pandemic, that doesn't mean we aim low. I implore you, have the graduation outside. Choose logic and common sense over our wants. Are we focusing on possible low case numbers stemming from the ceremony rather than considering actual physical people? If there are 10 people sick from the ceremony, have it outside. If there were to be 5 people sick from the ceremony, have it outside. If there is even 1 person sick from the ceremony, why not have it outside? We should not exclude anyone from this occasion, nor should we think that one sickness out of this graduation is a victory. I'm going to repeat that again. We should not exclude anyone from this occasion, nor should we think that one sickness out of this graduation is a victory. It is never too late to change your mind and make the right choice. Have the ceremony outside as one class. Please reconsider your decision, and thank you for your time.
Thanks, Grace.
Do you want a copy for the?
All right. Comments from CVEA. All right. Comments from any other employee groups. All right, board. This is the time in our meeting where our consent agenda we either discussed or these things are routine in nature. Board, I need a motion to approve our consent agenda tonight.
I move that we approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Roll call starting with Dana.
Aye.
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 And I.
I make one request into the future. It has to do with the tax resolution. In the future, could that resolution specify that the papers were all signed instead of just saying that it was waived?
I'm sorry.
The tax collector.
Right.
has to sign, as I understand, special waiver to not collect them. I don't know if anyone was elected this last time or not.
We'll actually do that, that's this election.
Yeah, it's this
So
election.
we'll do the deputization at the end of this year, so yes, when we do the one next year, we will have to do
Yeah,
that.
I just
Yep.
wanted to make sure that the resolution that we passed reflected that it actually was signed, because we've all seen problems elsewhere with that
Yeah.
Right.
issue.
Yep. We're
Thank
still
you.
in the 4-year cycle, but when we go to the next one. we will.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
All right, on to action discussion. I think Phyllis, you're the first one.
Leave it down.
All of you that just got approved via the superintendent's report, you are welcome to stay. Congratulations on being employed. You are welcome to stay. You are also more than welcome to go. We will not hold it against you very long if you choose to leave.
I still say we should take names.
Just get your picture taken from the, Denise when you leave. No. But no, please, it's quite okay. You may leave.
Hi, good evening. Can you pull up the amusement tax projection? We're going to do that first
Do that
since
first.
Phyllis and we'll be taking the next several items. Okay, so the amusement tax rate is set every spring, every year. The maximum amount of amusement tax revenue that we can collect in a year is $349,000, and the current year rate was set at 3.5%. But in looking at next year's projections, we believe we can still hit the mark of $349,000 while reducing the amusement tax rate from 3.5% down to 2.75%. And that is our recommendation this evening. Any thoughts or questions?
Have we had any requests or input from the businesses that this affects? Because I'm sure their gross income has gone down. Have they weighed in on this at all?
No, they have not weighed in on this current amusement tax rate. We did have a comment last year after the rate was increased from 2% to 3.5%. They were asking us to reduce the rate. We kept it at the same level at 3.5%.
This won't be a surprise. Okay.
No.
You need approval for that.
Please, yes.
Board, I need a motion to approve the amusement tax rate for the upcoming school.
Second.
Roll call starting with teacher.
Aye.
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 And aye.
Thank you.
Thanks, Neil.
Just to add to Adele's comment about the amusement tax, our hope is that by bringing the rate back down, not the whole way to where we were, but at least down somewhat, is in recognition of the economy being open and hopefully them being able to, to get back on their feet. So our hope is that it will be viewed as we're trying to meet them, to get our revenue, but not, have the rate as high as we set it last year.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So next item on the agenda is the approval of the proposed final budget. And again, we covered a lot of that last week, so the only.
You wanna talk about the electrical change order, Bill?
Oh, I'm sorry, my agenda is different. Okay, I
Let's
apologize.
skip over you.
Guess we moved that stuff around. Okay, so I will do the change order first then. So as Dr. Z mentioned, when Wes was here last week, we pulled the electrical one off, so you approved the other two in consent. As Wes has been working with the electrical contractor, we had decided that it would be better if we would handle that change order through the allowances. So if you remember when we bid, part of the bid process is each contractor has to say what the allowances for the project would be. And so this seems like something that makes sense for it to be handled that way instead of through a change order. And it still leaves a substantial amount of allowances there should we need them. So normally we wouldn't want to do something so early in the project because you'd want to make sure those allowances were there. But due to the amount of the change order and the amount that's going to be left, we feel that this is the better way to handle it. So that's why we pulled it. So you will not see it come back to you. It'll just be handled in the allowances. Okay, my apologies. Now I'll go to proposed final budget. So I covered a bunch of this last week, so I'm not going to go over it. What you should have seen that's different from last week to this week was the budget narrative. So we put that together each year really as a way to kind of explain what's in the budget to the taxpayer. So you don't have to sort of read all the numbers and try to, make the jump yourselves. So if you see anything in that document, maybe grammar or something that needs to be changed, feel free to reach out to Adele and I. We will be more than happy to make those changes. The other two items are the resolution and the notice of the final budget. So once you approve the budget, then you'll approve the notice and the resolution so we can do all the proper posting. And then the last item that was attached is the first one that says 518 PowerPoint. And that was really to Mrs. Graff to address your questions. And I followed the format that we used last year, hoping that that would kind of hit the nail on the head. So it's really only 2 PowerPoint slides. The first one shows you the reductions kind of by category. And so I know it doesn't give you a specific list, but the issue with the way we do it is when I try to roll it up for you to kind of show you what's there, we're kind of showing it by, what's in building level budgets, what's in maintenance, what's in technology, kind of what's in, again, those categories. So we thought we would pull, this is our internal spreadsheet that we keep, but it foots out to all the numbers that we've shown you previously, shows you what was in the preliminary, what's in the proposed, and then any of the changes. And then Dr. Z, if you want to go to the next slide, then I tried to call out some of the specific reductions. So things like technology or maintenance, I didn't cover again because we've covered those in the last couple of meetings. And some of these we've talked about as well. Obviously, we've talked about the staffing and the retirements. We've talked about the pharmacy program that we're going to put in place. We've worked with the union. We still need to approve that, but worked with them through that. And then some of the other things that we called out. So in across the district, there are various places where supplies and books were looked at, equipment purchases, certain programs, the bridges or the careers programs. And then so it kind of put that one caveat at the end, kind of various items that were cut last year. And as we talked specifically about library, some of those items were reinstituted to the same level they were previously, and others came back at a lower level than they were previously. What I think is important to note, though, is that we're not making those decisions at the administrative level and pushing them down. The way these cuts and decisions get made is we have meetings with each building principal and department head, and we kind of task them to go find what the reductions can be, what they can live without, what maybe they need this instead of that, and then they feed those reductions to us. So that way we're not dictating how the reductions happen. They really know best what they can live without in their programs and in their classrooms. And so they're all generated that way, from the ground up instead of from the top down. And again, to that last point, there are definitely areas where what was reinstituted into the budget was less than what was there previously. But in some of those cases, COVID's taught us some things that, maybe we don't need as much of this as we had thought we needed in the past. So definitely still some areas there where the budget is not to prior levels. I'm not going to call them normal levels, but prior levels. So hopefully that helps, Mrs. Graff, to answer your question about the nuts and bolts of what's in that. So with that, we are at the time of year where we do need to have you approve the proposed final budget and then the notice and the resolution, please.
I have just one question with those. Specifically, since brought up, library has been reinstituted.
So here's what we did. Thank you for saying that. I meant to mention it and forgot. So here's, again, kind of to that, we're not dictating it down. We're asking for them to bring it back up. We have an admin meeting every Wednesday, and so we took your comment from last week, and when we had our admin meeting on Wednesday, we asked the building principals to go back to the librarians in their buildings and tell us what is needed to come back to make up that year that we didn't. And so those numbers are not in, but they will be in for June.
Okay.
We just didn't have enough time for them to go do it and get it, bring it back to
Do I understand now
us.
the library and some of these others are done by building since we no longer necessarily have a department supervisor?
Correct. Mm-hmm.
Okay,
Yeah, the building principal should be in charge of all of that going forward.
okay.
All right, board, with that, I will take a motion to approve the proposed final budget.
We're never happy with passing taxes. I will move that we approve the final budget as presented.
Second.
Roll call starting with Mike.
Yes.
Yes.
Aye.
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 Aye. Aye.
And aye. And then board, I need a motion to approve the resolution and the notice.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call starting with Diana.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
And aye.
Okay, thank you.
Alright, thank you Phyllis, Adele and the whole team, well done. This is the time of the year where we need to reappoint our board treasurer, so with that, I'm gonna nominate, that we nominate Phyllis again for the role of treasurer. I am doing that nomination. So, second? All-
Nomination doesn't take a second.
Nomination doesn't take a
No,
second,
it's not a motion, it's a
Okay.
nomination.
it's a nomination.
You just vote.
Okay. All those in favor of Phyllis being the board treasurer again for this following year? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right. Congratulations, Phyllis.
Thank you.
All right, then,
It was a tight line.
in the same vein, I am going to nominate that we approve Denise again for board secretary for a 4-year term. So all those in favor of Denise, Ms. Martin, holding the term as secretary, all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, congratulations, Denise. You will find your raise in your next paycheck. I'm just kidding, I'm just kidding. She's doing it graciously. All right, Dave, on to you.
It's the organizational chart, the updated one, with the elimination of the subject area supervisor positions. We have added assistant principals underneath elementary principals. And also an administrator for non-traditional learning. That is your CVVA, your RISE program, internships. Because as we foresee that moving forward and the non-traditional bringing back the cyber charters, that's gonna be a full-time administrative job. So we're gonna, with the approval of the organizational chart, I've also attached the 2 job descriptions. The nice thing about it is that last thing in a job description, other duties as assigned. So we can always move the administrators around to fit the needs of the district. In speaking with both Michelle Trasbourg from Fritz and Dr. Bredeman from Smoketown, we are gonna sit down when Dr. Kozer gets on board and to see how we're gonna use that assistant principal. It will be split between the 2 larger buildings. And whether it's every other day or morning, afternoon, that's what we're gonna figure out. But both principals were fine, as were Dr. Graybill and Dr. Pavlovic for not having a sitting in assistant principal at this time. Any questions on the organizational chart as presented?
Now, this makes things a lot clearer, despite all the webbing involved in this. As usual, my concern often is how will we be getting curriculum information without subject area supervisors? You once had mentioned having department chairs again, someone who watches just that curriculum, because we're not only responsible for curriculum, a lot of that impacts budget.
Yes.
And that should be coming from the department.
Yes.
And we usually get a future vision also when somebody's paying attention to one curriculum.
So in moving forward, once this organizational chart's approved.
Yeah.
Then I post for the 2 positions. I've also already started conversations with CVEA and informed them that we're moving forward with a teacher leader, department chairperson position. And I've met with Tara and we're moving forward down that path.
Will that be an MOU?
I'm sorry?
Will that be an MOU attached to the?
We're gonna have to see if it is gonna be an MOU because it's separate. It's an extra duty pay. It's not a teaching responsibility. It's above and beyond. And that's, even the salary goes that way because when you start looking around at other districts, we got a ballpark number, but then we wanted to turn that into, if it's, for example, $2,000 and if we're at 40% curricular rate, that's 50 hours of work
Yeah,
outside. So that's a lot of work outside the classroom.
and how are we going to handle the people that usually had the title coordinator, like for nurses and library and guidance and I don't know who else? You had
They would fall
coordinate.
underneath this department chairperson. So their position would change, unless it's already in the CBA. There's only a couple of them, there's a nurse coordinator and,
Their guidance and library and,
yeah, we didn't fill the library position, so we're gonna recreate it as a new job.
oh, okay.
So we won't fill the coordinator, we'll fill the department chair position.
So it'll be the same thing with a different title?
For that one, it will be.
Okay,
And what'll happen is then, each of the administrators from the building level will also oversee or work directly with the department chairs.
okay.
So for example, Dr. Daniker would probably still remain with science, even though that Mr. Cork wants to arm wrestle him for that because he was a science teacher as well. But we're gonna figure all that out
Okay.
so that that teacher's not on an island, that there is an administrator that's gonna be walking side by side with them. The teacher's just gonna be doing a lot of the work that the supervisors used to do.
Okay, and what about like guidance where it's spread amongst all the schools?
It will be spread among the schools,
One of
yes.
them will become the head, same job, different title.
Depending on the position, yes.
Yeah, okay. And we will get that list at some point when it's all
Oh,
worked out.
yes, once it's all ironed out, you bet. This is our first step to get this so I can post.
It's also nice to know who's doing what.
Sure.
Thank you.
All right, board, with that, I'll take a motion to approve the organizational chart.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right. Congratulations, Dave.
Thanks for the-
Idette, can you talk to us a little bit about?
Well, I gave my little sermon at our last meeting about the board being more of an advocate. And I know this is a small step, but we're one of only 20% of all the school districts in the state that hasn't approved this. And it seems to me it's the very least that we can do is to make sure that our voice is somehow in the mix. This board historically doesn't pass many resolutions. The few we have, we've spent 2 months wordsmithing. I don't think that's necessary. I think it's the gesture that matters, and I think we need to be on record as being one of them. I would move that we approve this resolution and direct the secretary to report that back to PSBA.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, thanks, Idette.
Thank you.
Like that, we did add those 5 years of numbers in there.
Yeah, well, yeah. Good things that.
Who are you gonna send it to, PSBA?
Excuse me?
Who are you gonna send it to?
PSBA
PSBA?
keeps them, yeah. It was their resolution. They had 2 resolutions they were pushing. The other one had to do with mandate reform. The reason I didn't recommend that one is it's already going into the legislative process right now. It's already been to committee.
All right, next up is the Honorable Mr. Kramer.
Honor.
Honorable. Hopefully I won't knock over the microphone this time.
I'm gonna bet on how many times you're gonna say village.
Quite a few.
So not.
So we have some good news, and Phyllis thought it would be a good idea to come back and give you the final report. This is kind of almost to the finish line of all the financings and millage studies that we've been talking about over the last 5 years, but it came together last week very nicely. So the handout, again, you've seen this many times from us before. Thank you, Phyllis. We were in the market last week for the last $40 million piece of the debt that was swapped and the termination of the swap and the issuance of the non-Laguda debt for the termination. But before we got there, one of the things that's happened in our world is the way the rating agencies view you all and the way they view certain documents that we send to them. And so you have historically been rated by Moody's AA. But when they look at non-Laguda debt, they give you a 2 rating notch downgrade for issuing debt outside of the Local Government Unit Debt Act. So Standard & Poor's, the other rating agency, only gives you a 1 notch downgrade. So because of that, that's pretty, it's worth 10 to 15 basis points on $40 million. So we went to S&P and we also got a AA rating from Standard & Poor's. That meant that the non-Laguda debt would only be rated 1 notch lower at AA minus. But I think in the end, and we'll send around the rating report for your review, now you have 2 folks, not just Moody's, now you have Standard & Poor's saying the same thing about Conestoga Valley School District, which is your financial profile is very, very good relative to your peers. A handful of folks around the Commonwealth have a AA. There's not many that have a AA1 or a AAA rated set of bonds on the books. So kudos to everyone here. I think when we started this process several years ago, we said, you went into this process with a AA rating. We want to make sure that when you come out of this process, that you haven't jeopardized all the other stuff you want to do around the district, and that you come out the other side not having been downgraded either because you spent your cash, you didn't plan for how you were going to phase in the mills, all the things that we kind of talked to you about doing to set you up, for the next 30 years. You followed them, and here we are kind of at the end, and you maintained not only your Moody's AA rating, but now you've got a AA rating from Standard & Poor's. So that's really good news to have both ratings like that, and that speaks to how we can sell the bonds. So last Thursday, we sold roughly $50 million into the marketplace. As I said the last time I was here, there has been a huge demand for municipal bonds over the last 6 months, where municipal bond rates have outperformed U.S. Treasury rates, and we saw that last week. We had 50 million of bonds for sale. We had almost $200 million of orders for the 50 million. So it was what we call oversubscribed. That's bank trust departments, that's Fidelity, that's Vanguard, that's insurance companies, that's everybody looking to buy your bonds, and that's also a function of you're a highly rated school district, and so there's not many of those out there. It's a good credit, AA rated, so that speaks to lowering the interest rate. So one of the things we'll get to here in a second is how we compare you to others that were in the marketplace. So this millage study that you've seen many times before is now final. If you look at columns 3 and columns 4, those are now final numbers. At the bottom of column 3, the average interest rate, the true interest cost is 2.55% on that $40 million. Again, I don't need to stand here and tell you the rates are really, really low and we've planned for this, but here we are at the end and it's really worked out. Because taxable rates have gone up, column 4, the termination value of that swap came down to just around $6 million. So that's the tax exempt portion of the offering that went to pay the termination payment. I would point you to columns really 10 and 11. Column 10 has been our bogey for how we're doing. When we started this 3 years ago, there were a couple of variables that were not set in stone. Column 10 shows you that we're at the moment about $35,000 ahead of where we thought we would be in terms of the total annual debt service. So that's a good thing. When I think we were here in February, that was plus or minus $5,000 or $6,000. Going down over column 10, it's now $35,000. That really is a result of municipal bonds outperforming taxable bonds. So again, that's really good. Column 11, we've been shooting for and trying to protect the cost of this project in terms of the mills required for the full $100 million, just slightly better than what we had anticipated, 0.36 mills. And you can see in column 11, it's been, the plan is to phase it in over 4 years going out there to 2025. So it's 0.07, 0.07. One of the things that we've been working with Adele and Phyllis with is to plan for that. There's been budgets where it's been easier to get those mills in. There's been budgets where it's been harder. And so it's been a little bit of give and take over the last several budgets, but it's, again, in the end, it's all working out very nicely. So that said, the last page of the handout, just to kind of tell you how it went. This is what we call an interest rate comparison. This shows how you did versus others in the marketplace at the same time. And so there were 2 deals priced about the same time by Janney Montgomery Scott. The first on the left-hand side of the page for Lower Moreland Township School District. And one of the things we want to be mindful of is comparing you to comparable credits. So Lower Moreland Township School District was rated AA as well. They had a similar call feature, 8.5-year call feature that you see there, and they were issuing non-bank qualified bonds, meaning more than $10 million. This issue was about $37.5 million. So their structure is the second column from the left. Their coupons and yields are shown there. The most important two columns are what we show you there, the spread to MMD. So MMD is the municipal market data curve. That's the base yield curve for a AAA credit. All school district bonds and other bonds price as a spread to that curve. And so you can see, as you look down over Lower Moreland scale, the spread to MMD ranged from 7 all the way out to 61 basis points. And really what matters is the end of the interest rate. So you can see, obviously, the more important spreads are at the end. So the spreads to MMD out in 2050 was 61 basis points over MMD. The Fairview Township School District deal that was priced at the same time was also non-bank qualified issue for $47 million, 8.5-year call, non-bank qualified. The spreads there, you can see range from 16 basis points down to 53 basis points. And then if you look at the far right-hand column, the $40 million we issued for CV last week, and the structure where the spread was relative to MMD ranging from 11 out to 36 basis points. And so if you go back to both Lower Moreland and Fairview Township, you can see how your bonds compared to those two issues, and you clearly outperformed. If you just look at the bottom of, out in 2044, we were 11 basis points better all the way up through 2031. We were on the Fairview Township, we were 17 basis points better up through the early part of the curve. So really, that speaks to our ability to sell your bonds in the marketplace. We had $200 million of orders coming from all over the country, but it's just our way of showing you price perform to other similar rated schools in Pennsylvania at the same time. And that's really what you pay us to do, is to perform for you. So it was a home run last week for everyone involved. So with that, the next piece, if you want to flip back to the millage study, Dr. Z, the only variable in this equation now is column 5. To the original plan, we still have roughly $10 million contemplated. Understanding that you're working with Wes and the folks at Murata, Maine to talk about the other projects that you want to do over the next couple of years. And so as you get some clarity on that, as we've said at the last couple of meetings, with rates low, and probably the expectation is rates are going to go up over the next 12, 18 months as inflation kind of rears its ugly head here as we get back to opening up everything. We would say bring those issues to market as soon as you kind of have some understanding of what you want to do. Maybe not get all of it, but get ahead of some of it. So that's the only variable left in the equation. And we'll stay in touch. Obviously, the next thing we're going to do is work on the PlanCon G and H for the folks at Murata, Maine, get that filed for any potential reimbursement that we can get. And that's kind of the last piece. You won't see us until we do another issue.
Yeah.
And there'll be hopefully refinancing opportunities over the next several years possibly. But be happy to answer any questions.
Yeah, I get your point that interest rates will be going up. They just can't be this low. If we did come up with a plan quickly and we decided to execute, how fast can it move to lock in these low interest rates that we have now?
Yeah, so we have a current rating, so everything's pretty fresh in the eyes of the rating agency. You can mobilize 60 days beginning
60 days.
till you get a rate, re-rating and get to locking in interest rates. I think you're doing the right things. You're working with your architects, and if that's later this fall, early next year, I don't.
What's the interest rate now?
So we use
On average,
well, by way of the benchmark, the 10-year treasury is our benchmark. And today the 10-year treasury was, call it, 1.65%. It's been as low as 0.5% the height of the pandemic last year when, no one knew what was going to happen. So we've moved up, but as I said, municipal bonds have outperformed that. So the 10-year municipal bond rate's roughly 1%. So you locked in this $40 million at an average coupon of 2.5% for 25 years. That's pretty crazy.
It's low.
But to your point, for every 50 base, 0.5% or 1% that rates go up, if you're thinking about borrowing 10, 15, 20 or more, that's a significant delta in interest rates that gets expensive.
Thanks, Scott.
You got it.
Thanks for all your hard work.
Happy birthday to Miss Mead.
Oh, thank you.
Big number this year. So
We did, man.
thank you for waiting for me. One of the values of COVID is I sat in Phyllis's office and did a Zoom for Upper Marion Area School District. Shut it down and walked across the street and did it here. It's great. And I had dinner at home to boot, so it's all good. Thank you for accommodating.
All right, well, thanks, Scott. All right, board, you see in front of you the finance and operations report, and curriculum instruction reports. Do you have any questions that you want clarification or answers on? If not, Dr. Z, any federal funds tonight?
None tonight, sir.
All right, Idette, any highlights other than what you put
Now,
in the
you'll
report?
notice that the PSBA report gets longer this time of year because the legislature's in session and they're putting more together. At some point, we should decide if anyone's interested in going to the conference. It's not in Hershey this year. I think that's just a one-year contract they have with Kalahari, but it's been a while since we've been able to have
Right, yeah, in person.
attendance at an in-person conference that I think anyone that can make it should consider it. I hope it's in the budget.
I haven't seen I can't wait for the agenda to come out.
I'm sorry.
It's always a robust agenda when it comes out.
Yeah, this time of year. I was adding things to that list of legislative issues right up until yesterday.
All right, thank you, Idette. Did you guys, I don't know if you guys talked about this last week, I was not here. Lisa and Diane have switched roles for the CTC. Does everybody know that? Diane had something come up at her work, so Lisa has been super willing to take over the CTC role, but you weren't able to be at the last meeting, correct?
Right.
Okay.
I've been in touch with her, so I have
Perfect,
everything I need for the next meeting.
awesome.
Thank you, Lisa.
All right, Fred, you're up.
Okay, let's start with the middle school. Presently, that project is 30% complete. The work going on, starting with the site, actually, I'll comment on this for right now, because that is the cover picture, but that's the building area A, that's the multi-story section. That is the precast concrete plank being set for the first floor level. It's basement, first floor, second floor. And then the associated structural steel, which takes it up to all but the roof framing. That plank, that precast concrete plank is today, I'd say it's probably about 90% complete in Area A. Area A is the only one that's gonna receive precast concrete plank. The rest of the areas will be the standard slab on grade. So the next photos are gonna be of the site work. And fundamentally, the site work, it's obviously a large site, so that work is scattered. Primarily, the electrical prime contractor is right now doing all of his concrete light standards throughout the campus. Beyond that, the general contractor is working on the curb work. The site contractor is working on his concrete curb work and sidewalks. So that's being installed throughout. I'm gonna at the time of this report, I think I had them about 80% or so, but they're moving quite well on that. That's the athletic fields, and that work is for all intents and purposes is about 20%. They just started that, getting the subgrade, putting in the drainage system. And I think as of today, they probably are about 50% through the drainage system for the athletic fields. Beyond that, as I said, the curb work is being done, some sidewalk work is being done. And then we'll move on to the next page. Page 6 is going to be the building itself, the structure. So again, Another view of the structural steel beyond, on the left-hand side and beyond is getting into the next areas, A, B, and C, the steel starting to be erected there. The big push right now is to move the multi-story. A lot of the prime contractors have the bulk of their rough-in work in that multi-story building. On the slab on grade areas, B, C, and D, a lot of that underground's already in. So once that gets, that's the bulk of it at that point. So they're moving to, and this is frankly B, area B, started to put structural steel in, and they have the stone in, and the underground rough-in work is completed, and they'll move to tie in the steel and then eventually pour the slab there. But in the multi-story, just another note there, they've started, so the next push now is to get the bearing for the next set of planks. So they've had to be a bit creative and move out of what would be a normal sequence. They've had to be a little creative to push the bearing part of it going so we can get more plank into the building at the second story, which will then cut loose the work for the other prime contractors. They're scratching. They want to move that work on. So that's it. That's questions.
My monthly question about the Brownstown punch list.
Yep, well, punch list is whittled down. There are, for all intents and purposes, some warranty issues being dealt with at this point. The testing and balancing of the HVAC system is, which is a third-party company hired by the district. They are continuing to move forward. As they move forward, they find a couple variables that need to be addressed. So we have to go back to the mechanical contractor and have those addressed as they move forward with the balancing. And be honest, the mechanical contractor's been a little struggle to get them back to stay on top of that. But most of the items right now are warranty items that have to be addressed. Not necessarily deficiencies, things not working. Let's come back and change the parts, change this.
So that color coding of more information needed is basically, we need it from the contractor to do that information to solve that.
That's correct, yes. Yep.
Thank you.
Yeah, the other two pieces that are still outstanding is, there's still some site work that needs to be done. So there was some seeding that was done that couldn't have been done until
Right, last
the
fall,
weather,
right.
permitted. And some of it we're still not happy with. K&W was just out 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, something like it, yes.
So to look at it, agreed that it wasn't the way it should be, and issued a letter on that. So that was one piece. And then the final piece is the flooring inside the building, which we agreed that we're not doing until the kids are out of school. So those two pieces are still outstanding as well.
Thank you.
On the mechanical, it's a high-end unit, correct?
I'm sorry?
It's a high-end unit, correct? Because when we spec'd it out, we spec'd out a high-end unit.
For Brownstown.
For Brownstown, yeah. And I think it's gonna be almost the same unit in the other buildings also?
Well, they're not,
Or-
no, these are gonna, there's gonna be, actually, I think it's a combination, quite frankly. There are gonna be air handlers and rooftop units.
Okay.
They're not gonna be individual units in the classrooms. But high end,
Well,
you're saying?
let's just say that when we spec'd it out, I said I didn't want crap. Because I know we had to maintain it and we have to live with it for the next 30 years, et cetera. And I just didn't want to buy garbage.
And I'm sure you didn't buy garbage. I mean, it is a higher end unit, that's correct. I'm sure there was probably 2 or 3 that they were purchasing or to looking through for the proper purchasing and everything, but yes.
Great. Thanks, Fred.
Yep.
All right. This is the second time in our meeting for public comments. Anyone else from the public like to comment?
My name is Christina, way down. My name is Christina Groff. I want to thank you. My address is 1944 Pine Drive, Lancaster, and I'm just a concerned parent. A lot of things have been happening this past year. And I would like to know your stance on the critical race theory. That's just one of mine.
I'm sorry.
On the critical race theory that I've been hearing a lot about with the curriculum for the children. I have a child that's still in elementary school and one that's about to graduate. And obviously I'm a little more concerned about the younger one. So I don't know if you can comment now or if you even know what you're going to be doing yet for that. But there's a lot of things that's coming up that I've been hearing, as well as like where your stance is if you're going to be requiring the children to have the vaccine for this COVID. Those are the questions that I have right now.
I don't think we're gonna have any answers for you tonight. I
Mhm.
think those are things that obviously some of the things that the administration, they can certainly get specifically, can get your information and they can address your questions specifically. I know I would say as far as the vaccine is concerned, we're gonna have to probably discuss that. I mean, as what I saw from PDE so far is that they're not going to require it for opening schools next year, but I guess that can all change too. So,
Yeah.
but I would say we do not have a specific answer. But some of those things the administration can get back to you on,
Okay.
specifically your first one.
All right, thank you.
All right, any board initiatives, board matters tonight? Board.
I mentioned last week we need to fill the opening on the construction, the third board member of the district construction committee, with all of the conversation about other things we can do with our 10 million remainder. The board needs to be actively engaged in those discussions. So we need a third person there.
All right, just keep thinking about that, board, we'll keep talking about that, but we'll be looking for someone to fill that role. Board, you can see on your agenda there, the dates for the meetings next month. This is just a reminder to our board and to everyone listening that because of the changes from the governor as of the 31st, we are moving back to our normal boardroom for our board meetings, starting next month. So, just FYI for everyone. With that, I will take a motion to adjourn to executive session for legal and personnel reasons.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?